All right, guys, so let's get started with today's lesson. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start off with our objectives. So, the first thing that you guys are going to know at the end of this lesson is a new poetic type. That new poetic type is called a found materials poem. And you're going to do further analysis into this poem and look at how it's formed or how it's written. You will also understand that the structure of a poem contributes to its meaning, and you will be able to write and revise poetry to include the use of descriptive and sensory language and incorporate a new poetic form from the list learned so far. So let's continue with this work. So there's going to be a painting. It's called The Block. Are there any particular parts of the scene that draw your attention? And what do you see in the painting? This is the painting. As you're looking at it, I want you to see if there's anything you notice or wonder. Is there any scenes that you can notice? Is there any special parts that grab your attention? The link for this will be inside of Schoology for you to take a closer look at the poem or the painting. Let's continue. You will discuss your findings in a discussion board of what you see and notice and wonder inside of the painting, The Block. So, once we've done that, let's talk about this painting. This artwork is called The Block, and it was made by an artist named Romare Bearden in 1971. Bearden said he was with a friend on his balcony in Harlem when he was inspired by the view to create this work. Bearden used paint to make his artwork, and he cut up paper from many sources and attached them to 6 large Masonite panels in a technique called a collage. The combined pieces are 18 feet long and approximately the size of a city bus. So this is a really big painting. We will return to this painting later on in the lesson, guys. So let's look at our focusing question and our content question. Our focusing question is, how does form shape a story's meaning? And our content framing question for lesson 8 is reveal. What does a deeper exploration of poetic structure reveal about the relationship between Josh and JB? What is the relationship between the focusing question and the content framing question? Let's continue this work so that we can break these questions down. Remember this virtual anchor chart that we did earlier? I want us to look at this again. So far, the poetic types that we've talked about is an ode, a free verse poem, a list poem, a definition poem, and now we're going to add what's called a found materials poem. So now I want you guys to take your attention to the poem on page 155. The poem is called Article 1 in the Daily News, December 14th. The Reggie Lewis Wildcats capped off their remarkable season with a fiery win against Olive Branch Junior High. Playing without suspended phenomenon, Josh Bell didn't seem to faze Coach Hawkins' undefeated Cats. After brief melee caused by a hard foul, Josh's twin Jordan led the team, like GW crossing the Delaware, to victory and to their second straight playoff appearance. With a first round bye, they begin their quest for the county trophy next week against the Independence Red Rockets, the defending champions, while playing without Josh Filthy McNasty Bell, the Daily News most valuable player. So, what is this poem about? The title of the poem refers to. The title of the poem indicates what? And the words in the poem sound mostly like. And the poem gives a summary of. So basically, we're going to break these questions down to give us some more insight into what's happening inside of this poem. I really want you guys to look at the title, because this is going to teach us about found materials poetry. What is a found materials poem? Well, some characteristics of a found materials poem is that it reframes writing from a found source as a poem. The title indicates the source material, or where they got the information. Typically, it uses a source that is not originally a poem. So when you read the poem on page 155, where do you think they got this information from? It also has a selected choice of language from the source material, or wherever they got the information from. And explanatory and descriptive, it presents information or understanding from the source material in a new way. We will look at this poetic type again in lesson 10, guys. Here, I want you guys to take some time to participate in the discussion board. If you'd like to pause here, now is the perfect time, and then you can come back. So now I want us to take a look at a different poem. This poem is on page 159, and it's called Dear Jordan. The first thing I notice when I look at this poem, guys, is look how it's written. How does the way this poem is written on the page help you understand how to read it? So first, what I want you to do is I want you to read the poem vertically. So that means reading up to down, up to down. Then I want you to try to read the poem horizontally, across, like this, line to line, line to line, line to line, and so forth. Reading it down like this. Try to read again, once again, vertically and across. Now let's think. Based on the two different ways that you read the poem, so first we have to look at what meaning we get from the first time when we read it up and down, and then we have to get what meaning we get when we read it across. How does the structure of Dear Jordan contribute to the poem's meaning? So what meaning did you get from the poem when you read it up and down? And what meaning of the poem did you get when you read it across? I want you guys to also pay attention to this. How does the word two, as in 1, 2, as in two columns, relate to Josh and Jordan? How does it relate? So let's look at this example. This is an image from if I were to read it vertically, a few lines. And this is an image of what it would be like if I read it horizontally. So if I read it vertically, it would say, without you, the goal seems broken. If I read it horizontally, it would say, without you, I am empty, the goal with no net. So, when I read it this way, without you, the goal seems broken, it makes me think that Josh is incomplete without his brother, that he can't accomplish his goals. But when I read it this way, without you, I am empty, the goal with no net. He can't succeed. A goal with no net can't catch the ball. So here I've gotten two different meanings from how I read it. Without you, I am empty, the goal with no net. So if the goal has no net, the net can't succeed in catching the ball. But here he says, without you, the goal seems broken. Here it means he can't accomplish his goals without his brother. Two different ways that I read this poem and two different meanings that I got from it. I want you guys to practice this work on this document here. Handout 8A, vertical and horizontal images in Dear Jordan. Now I've done the first one, but now I want you to read it vertically and then horizontally. vertically, and then horizontally, and then vertically and horizontally. And give me the explanations that you get from both and the new image that you get from the second one. Again, if you need any help, I'll be in office hours to assist you. If you need to complete, stop here. Now is the time. Again, office hours link is in Schoology. I'm here to help you with this assignment if need be. Let's continue our work. So now that we've come up with our images, I want us to think about our content framing question. How do I use descriptive and sensory language if I wanted to rewrite Dear Jordan? So we are going to rewrite Dear Jordan, which is on page 159, and we're going to use a different poetic form. You can go back to your anchor chart to get those different types of forms that we've learned so far. Remember, we've got ode, we've got free verse, we've got a definition poem, we have a list poem. But when you write that poem, you want to make sure that the poem's theme is consistent. Make sure that it still has the same message. Execute. How do I use descriptive and sensory language when I rewrite Dear Jordan? When you rewrite Dear Jordan in a different poetic form, I want you to incorporate some descriptive and sensory language. Your goal is to choose a different poetic type that represents a new form of expression while keeping the meaning of the poem's theme consistent. Choose a poem structure type from our Poetic Types anchor chart. I will have a link for you to put your poem in inside of Schoology. And once you've written your poem, I want you to answer this question. How did your choice, oh, I hate when it keeps moving this here. Sorry. How did your choice of poetic type impact the original meaning of the poem? Did your poetic type reveal any new or different meanings about the relationship between Josh and Jordan? Quick assessment. I now want you guys to answer our content framing question. What does a deeper exploration of poetic structure reveal about the relationship between Josh and JB? How did we learn more about Josh and JB's relationship by examining poetic structure? Remember, we read one of them up and down and some straight across, and they both had different meanings, and they both showed us more about Josh and JB's relationship with one another. What was the most effective type of poem to convey the change in Josh and JB's relationship? Has there been a change in their relationship? And why do you think a particular poetic type effectively conveys a sense of separation and loss? For you all's homework, I want you to continue reading the crossover and continue working in your fluency worksheet. Let's look at our deep dive for today. The poem that we're going to be looking at is on page 80 through 81. How do you spell trouble? I want you to silently reread this poem and consider the meaning of the word metaphor. On page 81, the metaphor that I want you to pay attention to is I'm a fly caught in a web. What does the metaphor convey about Josh's situation at that time? What does the metaphor convey about Josh's situation at that time? Please share this out inside of your discussion board. Then I want us to look at what verb mood is used in those sentences, and how do you know? Is it indicative, interrogative, imperative? Please refer back to your lessons for a refresher on these type of sentences. You should have also written this down in your vocabulary journal. So now that we've done that, I want us to think, how do indicative and imperative moods work? The poem is short, a single stanza, but constructs the metaphor of life in the context of basketball. Family is the court, Josh writes, and the ball is your heart. Understand that in this metaphor, the heart must remain with the family, whether in good times or bad. Which verb moods are present in this paragraph? So look at this paragraph, and I want you to tell me which verb moods are here. And then revise the last sentence, which is, understand that in this metaphor, the heart must remain with the family, whether in good times or bad. Please revise the last sentence of this paragraph into the indicative verb mood. You should not shift from indicative mood to imperative mood when you're writing essays, by the way, because typically when you're writing an essay, they should be in third person. And imperative mood sentences are always written in second person because of the implied subject you. Shifting between verb moods can be confusing for the reader and also make writing seem unpolished. So in basketball rule number 4 on page 71, I want you to write 3 indicative mood sentences. The first sentence should state what the metaphor is comparing. The second sentence should quote the main portion of the metaphor from the text. And the final sentence should explain what the metaphor means. Write these in the 3 indicative mood sentences, or write 3 indicative mood sentences to answer these questions. All right, that's it. Again, if you guys need any help, office hours are always available. Links are inside of Schoology. I'll see you all tomorrow.